I'm standing in my hallway at 7 in the morning, staring at a piece of paper that just got slid under my door. My hands are actually shaking. Not from anger, not from fear, but from something I honestly didn't think I'd feel in this situation. Because 3 days ago, I left a note for my downstairs neighbor about the noise. And I was so convinced this was going to blow up in my face. I was prepared for hostility, for denial, maybe even for things to get worse. But what he wrote back? I had to read it twice just to make sure I wasn't imagining it. If you've ever lived in an apartment, you know the absolute dread that comes with confronting a noisy neighbor. That sick feeling in your stomach when you're trying to decide between suffering in silence or potentially starting a war with someone who lives 10 feet below you. But if that hits home, do me a favor. Hit that like button right now, subscribe if you haven't already, and buckle up, because this story takes a turn I genuinely did not see coming. Let me take you back 8 months. I had just moved into what I thought was going to be my peaceful sanctuary, a second-floor apartment in a pretty quiet building. The kind of place where you hear the occasional footstep above you, maybe a door closing down the hall, but nothing that really invades your space. I remember that first week, unpacking boxes, arranging furniture, genuinely excited about this new chapter. I'm the type of person who values their alone time, their quiet time. After a long day, I need to decompress in silence, you know? That's how I recharge. But within the first 2 weeks, I started noticing something. At first, I thought maybe I was being oversensitive. You know how it is when you first move somewhere new. Every sound feels amplified, unfamiliar. But no, this was real. My downstairs neighbor was loud. And I don't mean party loud. I don't mean screaming matches or bass-heavy music at 3 in the morning. It was something almost more invasive because of how constant it was. The television. Oh my God, the television. It wasn't just that I could hear it. I could make out specific dialogue. Like I'm sitting on my couch trying to read a book, and I can hear full conversations from whatever show he's watching below me. At first, I tried to tune it out. I put on my own music, wore headphones, tried to convince myself it wasn't that bad. But here's the thing about constant noise. It doesn't just annoy you, it burrows into your brain. You start anticipating it. You walk into your apartment and your shoulders are already tense because you know what's waiting for you. And then there was the furniture dragging. This was the part that really started to break me. Around 11 at night, like clockwork, I would hear this scraping sound. Heavy, deliberate, like someone was rearranging their entire living room. The first time it happened, I genuinely thought maybe he was moving in. You know, still settling. But it kept happening. Tuesday nights were the worst. I don't know what it was about Tuesdays, but it was like he had some kind of ritual where he had to reorganize his entire space right when I was trying to wind down for bed. Now, here's where my personality became my own worst enemy. I am not a confrontational person. The idea of knocking on someone's door to complain makes my stomach turn. I kept thinking, what if I'm being unreasonable? What if I'm the problem? Maybe I'm too sensitive. Maybe this is just what apartment living is, and I need to suck it up. I'd lie in bed at night, staring at the ceiling, listening to muffled TV dialogue seeping through my floor, and I'd run through scenarios in my head. What if I say something and he gets defensive? What if he tells me to deal with it? What if he's one of those people who deliberately makes it worse once you complain? I've heard horror stories. Neighbors who blast music even louder out of spite. People who start banging on walls, leaving threatening notes, making your life absolutely miserable. And the worst part? We share a building. I can't just avoid this person. If this goes badly, and I have to live above my enemy every single day. So I waited. And waited. Weeks turned into months. I'd come home from work already exhausted, already dreading the evening ahead. My apartment, which was supposed to be my refuge, started to feel like a prison where I couldn't even relax. I'd find myself staying out later just to avoid being home. I'd go to coffee shops to read instead of sitting on my own couch. I was being driven out of my own space, and I was letting it happen because I was too afraid to speak up. Then came that Tuesday night. The Tuesday that finally pushed me over the edge. I had to be at work early the next morning for a big presentation. I'm talking 6:30 a.m., the kind of early that means you need to be asleep by 10 to feel even remotely human. I came home around 9, ate a quick dinner, and got into bed by 9:30, feeling pretty proud of myself for being responsible. And then it started. The TV was particularly loud that night. I could hear every word, every sound effect, every burst of canned laughter from whatever sitcom was playing. I tried everything. Pillow over my head, white noise app on my phone, earplugs, nothing worked. And then, right at 11, like some kind of cosmic joke, the furniture dragging began. That scraping, grinding sound that seemed to vibrate through the entire floor. I remember lying there, and I could feel my heart rate picking up. Not just from frustration, but from genuine anxiety because I knew I wasn't going to sleep. I knew the next day was going to be hell. And somewhere around 11:30, still wide awake, listening to what sounded like a couch being dragged across the floor for the third time, something in me just snapped. Not in an angry way, but in a clarity way. I thought, this is insane. I'm lying here suffering because I'm too scared to have an uncomfortable conversation. I'm being held hostage by my own anxiety. I got out of bed. I turned on the light, pulled out a piece of paper and a pen, and I started writing. My hands were shaking a little. I'm not going to lie. I must have drafted that note 4 times. I was so careful with every word. But I didn't want to come across as aggressive or demanding. I didn't want to seem like I was attacking him. I wrote, "Hi, I'm your upstairs neighbor. I'm not sure if you're aware, but the TV volume comes through pretty clearly to my apartment, especially in the evenings. I was wondering if we could maybe work something out. I really don't want to make a big deal of this. Just thought I'd mention it. Thanks for understanding." I read it over maybe 10 times, obsessing over the tone. Was it too passive? Too aggressive? Would he think I was being unreasonable? Finally, around midnight, I just folded it up, walked downstairs in my pajamas, and slid it under his door. My heart was absolutely pounding. I felt like I was doing something dangerous, something irreversible. I went back upstairs, got into bed, and honestly, I barely slept anyway because I was too anxious about what I'd just done. The next day was torture, but not because of the presentation. That actually went fine. It was the anticipation. I kept thinking about that note sitting in his apartment. Had he read it? Was he angry? Was he planning some kind of retaliation? I came home that evening genuinely scared to walk into my building. I kept glancing at my door, half expecting to find an angry note, or worse, no note and just louder TV as a middle finger to my request. But nothing. No response. No change. The TV was just as loud that night. Day 2, still nothing. Day 3, silence. And honestly, by that point I'd convinced myself that the note had been a mistake. I figured he'd either ignored me completely or was passively aggressively showing me he didn't care by not changing anything. I felt embarrassed. I felt stupid for even trying. I started mentally preparing myself to either just live with it or finally go to building management and deal with the fallout. Friday morning. I'm getting ready for work, barely awake, coffee in hand. I open my door to leave, and there it is. A piece of paper on the floor, folded neatly. My stomach dropped. This was it. This was the angry response I'd been dreading. I picked it up, closed the door, and just stood there in my hallway for a moment, building up the courage to read it. I unfolded it, and I started reading. "Hey, I'm really sorry about the noise. I honestly had no idea the TV was coming through that loud. I'm hard of hearing in one ear, so I keep the volume up without realizing how it sounds to everyone else. I just ordered a soundbar with Bluetooth so I can use headphones at night. Should arrive in a couple days. Really appreciate you letting me know." I stopped. Read it again. Waited for the but. Waited for the passive-aggressive jab, the excuse, the defensiveness. It never came. Instead, there was more. Also, I wanted to say thank you for leaving a note instead of just going to management. Most people don't bother giving me a chance to fix things first. They just complain and make it a whole thing. I really appreciate the direct communication. I'll make sure to keep it down. Sorry again. I'm standing there, in my hallway, at 7:30 in the morning, reading this note for a second time. And I feel my eyes actually getting a little wet. Not from sadness, but from this overwhelming sense of relief mixed with something else. Something I didn't expect to feel. Validation, maybe? Or just this really pure moment of human decency that I'd convinced myself didn't exist anymore, especially not in apartment disputes. That weekend, the soundbar must have arrived, because suddenly the TV noise just stopped. Not reduced, stopped. I'd come home and sit on my couch and there'd be nothing. Just silence. Blessed, beautiful silence. And the furniture dragging? Gone. Completely gone. I don't know if he realized that was bothering me too, or if it was just coincidence, but whatever routine he had that involved moving things around at 11 p.m. just stopped happening. For the first time in 8 months, my apartment felt like mine again. I could read without distractions. I could go to bed without anxiety. I could just exist in my own space without constantly being on edge. And the wild thing? I saw him a few days later in the parking lot. I expected it to be awkward, you know? Like, we'd both avoid eye contact, pretend we didn't see each other. But he actually smiled, gave me a little wave, said, "Hey, hope it's been better?" And I said, "Yeah, thank you so much." And that was it. No weirdness, no tension. Just two people who had a problem, communicated about it, and solved it. I think what gets me about this whole thing is how much energy I wasted on anxiety and worst-case scenarios. I spent literally months making myself miserable because I was so convinced that speaking up would make things worse. I'd built this entire narrative in my head about confrontation and conflict, and how people don't care, and how you can't win in these situations. And all it took was a polite note, one single piece of paper with a few kind sentences. And on his end, he had no idea. He wasn't being malicious. He wasn't trying to make my life difficult. He literally just didn't know. He couldn't hear what I was hearing. And when I gave him the information, he immediately took responsibility and fixed it. No excuses, no defensiveness, just genuine accountability. It made me realize how many conflicts in life probably aren't actually conflicts at all. They're just misunderstandings, miscommunications, people operating with incomplete information. And yeah, I know not every neighbor would respond like this. I know I got lucky in a lot of ways. But I also think there's something to be said for giving people the benefit of the doubt, for trying direct communication before assuming the worst. Sometimes being the person who leaves the polite note actually just works. And I forget that. I think we all forget that sometimes. We're so used to conflict and negativity, and people being awful, that when someone just responds with basic human decency, it feels shocking. But maybe it shouldn't be. Maybe that should be the norm. Maybe most people, when given the chance, will actually do the right thing. If this story hit different for you, if it reminded you that sometimes people actually are reasonable and kind, do me a huge favor and hit that like button. Drop a comment and tell me, have you ever confronted a neighbor about noise? How did it go? I genuinely want to know if I'm the only one who overthinks these things to this degree. And of course, subscribe if you want more stories about real human interactions. The messy stuff, the surprising stuff, the things that remind us we're all just trying to figure this out together. I'll see you in the next one.